Today, I'm going to be lifting my Tacoma again, except this time we're going to be focusing on the rear end suspension. So today I'm in my hometown of San Diego at my favorite shop to get any suspension work done, AccuTune Off-Road, and we're going to be installing a brand new leaf spring in the rear, as well as AccuTune's own bump stop and U-bolt flip kit to give my truck a better ride. Now, if you're thinking about lifting your Tacoma, which I know a lot of you are or are planning to, I think it's very important to not just think about how high you want to lift your truck. What accessories do you have, like bumpers, bed racks, or in my case, an entire deck drawer system that's loaded, and how much do they weigh? Also, there's lots of different ways you can lift the rear of these Tacomas. There's block lifts, you can do add leafs, or you can do what we're doing today, complete leaf spring replacements. So what sort of setup is best for your specific Tacoma? My ultimate goal today and what I really want out of my Tacoma is not necessarily just a higher lift. I really want better performance. I want a good ride quality. And today I really want to do a deep dive into what we're doing and why we made those decisions. There's going to be a lot of information in this video about topics like up travel, ride height, leaf springs, and bump stops, so if any of those are of interest to you, I think you'll really enjoy this one. Speaking of leaf springs, thanks to Deaver Suspension for providing the springs you're going to be seeing today. Deaver is a leader in vehicle suspension and they've been around for over 100 years, which honestly is insane when I found that out. I know a lot of you guys run Deaver springs on your Toyotas and love them, so I'm excited to be running their springs on my truck too. And of course, thanks to AccuTune as well. This is actually the second video I filmed with them, so if you haven't seen my first video where we took apart my shocks a few months ago and got them custom tuned to my driving style, I promise it's a good one and there will be a link in the description. If you're no stranger to the channel, you probably know we've gone through lots of different iterations of suspension setups. While I love DIYing in my garage, for this specific project, I'm really excited that I'm here at AccuTune because they're the suspension experts. They can take what I want and apply that to different products I need to achieve my goals. Knowing all those little details, like what exactly I want to use my truck for, what sorts of driving conditions am I going to put my Tacoma under, what kind of lift I want and what kind of ride quality I want. They know how to translate all of that into a setup that will work for my Tacoma the best. So that's why I'm here and that's why I'm really excited to get this done. So a quick walk around of my current setup in the rear of my truck. I obviously have the Fox 2.5 Performance Elite Series shocks. We're on the stock OEM leaf springs. And another component that matters to what we're doing today is I've got a deck drawer system in the bed of my truck that's loaded with a bunch of off-road gear. The before and after shots in this video are pretty insane, and I'm glad that towards the end I can visually show you those differences. Before we even got started on this install, I wanted to talk to Ryan, the owner of AccuTune, about my current setup and way my truck rides to get his perspective and recommendations for how we can reconfigure my Tacoma for better ride quality. Perhaps some of you who carry a lot of weight around or have modified your truck beds can relate to this. So last time I was here and we tuned my shocks and we did some testing, I could feel that my rear end was bottoming out a lot sooner than it probably should have, especially compared to the front. I definitely feel that when I'm going off-roading too. Yeah, so when you were here last time, we took some measurements on your vehicle and we found that the rear end only had 2.5 inches of up travel, which is just not enough. I mean, you can imagine how quickly that can bottom out. And so we recommended getting a little more lift. We typically recommend like 4 to 5 inches is kind of the sweet spot for up travel. You want to keep minimum lift, so we're going to go for 4 inches of up travel. And so that's why we selected this Deaver N98 leaf pack.
We're expecting that this is going to give you about 1.5 inches of lift over where you're at now. On a normal stock weight vehicle, this is a 2-inch lift, but you've got so much extra weight, you're compressing your overloads a little bit right now. We're anticipating about 1.5 inches of lift, which should get you right in the sweet spot with 4 inches of up travel.
Cool,
so perfect.
So cancel out a little bit.
Yeah,
awesome.
Exactly. So to go along with the leaf pack, we also want to fix your bump stop spacing. So what can happen is the leaf packs have different thicknesses, the bump stops mount on top of the leaf packs. We've got to match your bump stop spacing to your leaf pack, to your shock combination, so that you get the most amount of up travel. Sometimes if you kept a stock one, you can bottom your shocks out. Sometimes you give up a bunch of up travel. And so in your case, we went with our 1-inch bump stop spacer and our foam bump stops so that you get the most amount of up travel possible, and you've got a really nice, comfortable bottom out with those bump stops.
Yeah, and you've got a U-bolt flip kit here too, right?
Yep, exactly. So you're gonna gain a bunch of ground clearance. You're not gonna be dragging on that big old spring hanger. So it's the best of both worlds.
I'm excited. Let's get to it.
Cool.
Now let's go for a ride in my truck so you can see what I'm talking about with my current rear suspension setup. Anytime I see a dip in the road, it's pretty easy for me to bottom out the rear. Woo!
So the main problem we're trying to fix with your rear suspension is the amount of up travel it has. The simplest way for us to measure that right now is just to measure the shock. So you can kind of see right here, you've got about 2.5 inches of up travel. And our goal is to get that to 4 inches.
Oh, I see.
And so then hopefully the new leaf spring will do that.
Wow, that really is not a lot.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because like when I didn't know what I was like looking at, I'm like, that's fine. Or like,
yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, there's just so many different things on these that can be a problem.
After the test drive, it's time to start the install. So again, as Ryan mentioned, what we're installing are Deaver N98 2-inch leaf springs, as well as AccuTune's U-bolt flip and bump stop kit. Matt, who you might remember from my last video, starts by removing the existing U-bolts. He then lowers the spare for more clearance. Next, he starts the process of removing the OEM leaf springs and also removes the lower shock mount for more room to work. Out goes the OEM leaf spring and in goes the new Deaver N98. Mike let me install the U-bolt flip kit, which was pretty simple to do. Just add the billet aluminum bump stop holder and then install the U-bolts and tighten down all the nuts evenly. If you need to upgrade bump stops for your Tacoma, I would say this kit is a very easy DIY, and AccuTune has a chart on their website explaining which size bump stop cup you would need for your application. That's it for the driver's side, so now it's on to the passenger side following the exact same steps. Now, as I've been mentioning, we're installing a whole new leaf spring, but as someone who has seen trucks with add leaves or blocks to also achieve that 2-inch lift, I was curious to hear what Ryan's take was on that.
So add leaves are a great upgrade over factory. They are much better than a block, and basically what they do is they take your factory overload leaf and they get rid of it and they replace it with 2 or 3 small leaf springs. And so again, you're getting rid of the overload, which is a performance improvement. It's giving you some lift, which is nice as well, but you're still keeping kind of the stock kind of main leaf springs in there, and they just don't work as well as a high quality Deaver spring. And so the Add a Leaf pack is a great performance upgrade if you're on a budget, but it really performance-wise pales in comparison to a full replacement leaf pack. And for the people that are interested in going overlanding, they add a lot of weight on the weekends, they tow a trailer, the Add a Leaf pack, you know, may not be the best option. You may want to look at more of an overload type leaf pack. So
yeah, good information. Here I am installing the bump stop and U-bolt flip kit again. To get into more detail about this kit over the stock bump stops, there's really 3 advantages.
The first is that it's a U-bolt flip. You're going to gain a bunch of ground clearance. Factory, you've got that big old hanger underneath and it takes up a ton of space and you can drag it on stuff and get caught. So it's a U-bolt flip. The second benefit is that we've got a spacer here. So it's available with different lengths and we need to match the length of the spacer to which shock you have and the height of your leaf spring. And then the third benefit is that we have these foam bump stops that are super soft and they're way softer and more compliant than factory. And the second benefit of these things is they're also customizable. People that have lots of up travel like to use the full length. People that have lower up travel sometimes need to cut a rung off of them to have a little bit more room for up travel. They're not driving as hard. And so you can kind of customize them to suit your needs. This combination together should be a drastic improvement on the ride quality in the rear Tacoma.
Oh yeah, I believe it. So do you think we're going to be cutting these for mine?
I think with 4 inches of up travel, the odds are pretty high we're going to end up cutting them.
Cool.
Yep.
When the passenger side was installed, it was time to grind down the U-bolts, then torque and mark all of the bolts. And this is the finished rear end suspension setup. I hadn't driven the truck yet to let the suspension settle when some of these clips were taken, but there was a massive difference for sure, as you guys can see.
All right, so here we are with the Deaver N98 springs installed along with our U-bolt flip. And so our goal was 1.5 to 2 inches of lift. So we can check real quick where we're at. And so before, remember, it was 2.5 inches from the bottom of the shock to the bump stop. And now we're at 4 3/8. So just a little bit less than 2 inches of lift. So you can also see we've got the bump stop installed here, which has got some nice up travel to it as well. Got some clearance before it contacts. So it'll ride nice. Overall, I hope that we've met your goals of getting a little more lift.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just took it for a test drive. I think that 2 extra inches of up travel really, really makes a difference.
Yeah, getting the specs right makes a huge difference so the shocks can do their job.
Yeah, absolutely. And now for the test drive after everything was installed. Let's see how the truck's rear end feels now. Wow. I was waiting for it to bottom out and it just didn't. For reference, here's the old versus new setup side by side. Under compression, you can see that because of the minimal up travel to begin with before, the shock is fully compressed and bottoms out. Whereas with the lift plus new foam bump stop now, there's still plenty of travel for the shock even as we hit this bump. The biggest thing is I can definitely feel the difference, but also hear the difference. This thing rides real nice with the tube too. So we did the new leaf springs,
Yeah.
we did the U-bolt flip and the bump
Yeah.
stops. Were there any other things you thought we needed to adjust to basically get my truck set up today?
Yeah, I think in your case, we've done everything we need to do. Some people that have longer travel rear shocks may need brake lines. Some people, it tends to be more of a problem in older trucks, but some people want to do a carrier bearing drop. We don't typically see the need for them, but if you've got an older truck, sometimes the carrier bearing's worn out and the drop can help. But by and large, this is, a good kit, and I think we've got everything you need.
Yeah, absolutely, and it felt that way for sure. So thank you so much for getting my truck set up.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. We're glad to help.
Thanks again also to AccuTune and Deaver for making a fantastic setup for my Tacoma. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it helps out if you're thinking about working on your own Tacoma suspension as well. Thanks for watching and I hope I see you guys in the next video. Bye!